everybody. So we're going to have all of our panelists introduce themselves with their names, pronouns, hometowns, years, majors, and the first thing they're going to do when the quarantine is over. So Michelle, if you want to kick us off, go for it.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Michelle. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm from Evanston, Illinois, so suburbs of Chicago. I am a senior. My major is linguistics and my minor is biology, and I am pre-dental, so I'm a little all over the place. And the first thing that I'm gonna do when quarantine is over, I think is like go to a sit-down restaurant with my friends. Like I didn't realize like how integral that was to my life. So yeah, definitely do that.
Cool. Andrea, would you like to go next?
Yeah, hi everybody. So my name is Andrea. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada originally. I'm a senior, so graduating in like 2 seconds. I majored in biochemistry and minored in psychology and biomedical physics. And the first thing for me when quarantine is over actually is not very exciting. I'm going to medical school starting in July, so I just need to prepare for that. So unfortunately, got to get back down to business, but it is what it is.
Okay, Anu, would you like to go next?
Yeah, my name is Anu. I'm also a senior. My majors are computational bio and global health, and I'm a women, gender, sexuality studies minor. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm from outside of Boston, and the first thing that I want to do when quarantine ends is go and get my hair cut.
All right. Allie, would you like to go next?
Yeah, hi. I'm Allie. I am a senior as well. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri originally, and I am majoring in psychological and brain sciences with minors in writing and communication design. I use the pronouns she, her, hers, and the first thing I want to do after quarantine is figure out a way to see my boyfriend because it's been a long time. Yeah, so.
Awesome. Hanlu, would you like to go?
Hey, I'm Hanlu. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm also from St. Louis, and I'm also a senior, so there's a lot of graduating seniors here. I am studying international affairs and organizational and strategic management, which is an Olin Business School. And the first thing that I'll do after all of this is over is find all of my friends in St. Louis and give them a hug because I'm a hugger and I miss that dearly. So excited for that.
Cool. So Rhiannon, would you like to go next?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Rainan, like the weather, and I use he and his pronouns. I'm a first year, and I'm in the Beyond Boundaries program. I'm originally from Edison, New Jersey, and I'm majoring in political science and sociology. Right after quarantine, I'm excited to go and hang out with my friends again.
Okay, well, I will go next. So hi, everybody. My name is Morgan. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am originally from Davidson, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. I am a junior, but will be a senior now, I guess is how that works, which is exciting. I'm majoring in cognitive neuroscience and minoring in biology. And the first thing I'm going to do when I'm out of quarantine, I'm gonna echo the restaurant thing. I really miss like a good pizza. That would be great.
All right. So my name is Grace. I'm the other moderator with Morgan. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And my hometown is St. Louis, but I actually just did a big move to Southern California, which I'm really excited about. I'm currently a junior and my major is global health and the environment, and I have a minor in English. And the first thing I'm doing when I get out of my house is going to get froyo, but like have as much topping as I do froyo. I really thought that one out, so I hope you enjoyed that.
That sounds delicious. So now that we've gotten more of a glimpse of who our panelists are, we will begin with the most commonly asked questions you all had submitted through the Google form. And the first question is, how have you changed the most in college, and how has WashU influenced that change? So Allie, if you want to take us away for that question, go for it.
Sorry, still getting used to the whole mute thing. Yeah, so I would say like coming into college, I was kind of all about like putting my schoolwork like really high up there. So freshman year was um like a lot about learning that like work-life balance. And I would say I spent like a lot of time in the library just studying constantly, and pretty quickly realized that that wasn't like the best thing for me. So over the past couple of years, I would say that I've gotten a lot better with managing my time so that I can exercise and have time to cook and do things that I really enjoy and spend time with friends and family, and not just like constantly be putting, of course academics are like very important, but putting that the forefront isn't always like the healthiest or best thing to do. So that took a little bit of learning, and I would say a big part in like learning that was my semester abroad in Copenhagen. So I went to Copenhagen the spring of my junior year, and it was like my first time being outside of St. Louis for more than a couple days, and it was my first time out of the country. So huge transition, and while I was there, the schoolwork was just not as rigorous. So I had so much free time, and had a really great opportunity to explore like some other activities that are really fulfilling and ways that I can manage my time. And so I kind of carried that with me back to St. Louis this past year. So I would say that that's been a big thing for me, is learning how to prioritize and schedule my time.
Okay, cool. That's a really cool experience, and I'd like to speak on that a little bit too. So one thing that changed about me was just my ability to communicate, and I felt like WashU gave me the best opportunities to really understand my experience and tell it to others, and like having opportunities left and right, being able to work with group projects, perform even and present in ways that were a lot more intense than high school was, really taught me how to talk to people on an individual level, and also to groups. So even being here as a moderator, I don't think I'd ever be able to do this as a freshman, but WashU really taught me that the world is my oyster. So yeah. Elaine, would you like to speak on your experiences a little bit? Never mind. Anyone else want to jump in about what they've experienced, or we can move on to the next one if you'd like.
I can jump in lieu of Elaine, or Rainin, I think also unmuted. So you'll have 2 additional answers. But I guess the biggest change that I've personally experienced in college is getting a lot more clarity in terms of what I value and how I want to live my life. I think definitely, like what Ali said in the beginning of college, it's a lot of kind of focusing on like, okay, academics is all you've known from K to 12, and this is the first time you're really independent, right? So it took a couple years to figure out what I wanted from my life, both personally and professionally. And I think, you know, at WashU, I have no one more to thank than my friends, because there are so many people doing so many amazing things on this panel and at WashU that it's really inspiring to be around, and it kind of makes you wonder and ask yourself, like, what do I want to do? And so that's really helped me grow as a person, I would say, and not just in an academic or college setting.
Yeah, I think I've gotten to grow a lot, even though I'm just a first year. Since I committed to WashU, I think I've grown a lot as a person. I think as an activist, I've learned how to better influence policy. It's something I've always been really passionate about, and something that I'd never really got to influence when I was in high school, because I spent a lot of my time doing debate and other extracurriculars where I got to kind of find my voice, but not really do anything with it. In college, I kind of got to see how that could translate into a lot of different projects and make an impact on the community around me. But I also feel like identity-wise and personally, I was able to grow and kind of explore my Chinese identity, my identity as the son of immigrants, my identity as a gay man, all of which were things I never really had time to reflect on and think about when I was in high school. I think the communities at WashU are definitely like the most special part of campus, and something that it's really hard to quantify or qualify even before you get to campus, but it's just something that is really integral in terms of your growth and supporting you to make sure that you're able to kind of grow and change as a person.
Thank you. Thanks for everyone's answers. That was really insightful. So the next question is, could you guys describe WashU student culture and academic climate? To kick us off, Anu, would you like to go?
Yeah, for sure. I actually really liked what Brandon just said about the communities at WashU being like one of the most important parts of the experience. And I think for me, that was what I did love most about WashU when I, like, even before I had joined there just from visiting, and then like even more so during my 4 years there. So I would say, as far as like specifically student culture, like academic culture goes, I think that people are definitely, I know a big question is often like, oh, are people at the school like competitive and like cutthroat, or are they like willing to support each other? And I would say that in my experience, it's definitely been people like really being willing to help you out and not being worried about like your success versus their success in that sense. So yeah, and I think that like the teachers help to facilitate, like professors help to facilitate that sort of environment as well, by ensuring that we're all just really like trying to do our best and like grow as much as possible personally, instead of like working against one another, if that makes sense.
Awesome. So I will jump in on this question as well. So I would echo everything that Anu just said for sure. I was worried going into college, especially when, like WashU, that it was going to be really cutthroat, and it really hasn't been in my experience. And something that I found really interesting is that the student culture and academic climate are very intertwined and like representative of each other in that way, and that all the different clubs and groups and different organizations on campus that really make up that student culture are all super supportive of one another, just as we are in our classes. So I think that's really unique and kind of a cornerstone of the culture and climate overall for me, in my experience. And then Allie, if you want to finish us off with this one.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and just to kind of echo what both of you said, I've also had an additional experience with this because I'm an editor of the university newspaper, and I've been involved with that for all 4 years. So I've like reported on so many different events and amazing things going on campus, and I'm always just so excited to talk to like leaders of different student groups who are just doing so many amazing things. And I think personally, like within my own friend group, something that's been really nice is that like there's engineers in our good friend group, and like pre-med students, and I'm a writer, and we all just really like support each other and go to each other's events, and it's just a really uplifting environment. And I love how intertwined all of the schools are as well, in terms of like the School of Engineering and Applied Science and Sam Fox. So I have a minor in the Sam Fox school. And it's just really great to have students who have so many different interests and passions academically, and also in terms of extracurriculars. I think a lot of that's also facilitated by WashU being like a medium-sized institution. I think it's really perfect size, that there's so many different backgrounds and interests, and but not too much where you feel like you're having to like make the school feel smaller. I don't know if that makes sense, but I love WashU's size in that way.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for answering those questions. So for our next question, I really like this one. What would you recommend for choosing courses for the first semester, focusing on the breadth requirements or going right into the important classes for your selected major? And Allie, if you want to start us off on this one as well, go for it.
Yeah. I think that it's really important to kind of start off with getting a wide range of coursework personally. So my first semester, I took like French and a writing class and linguistics and a psychology class. And I wasn't really sure exactly what I was going to end up majoring in, and exposing myself to all those different subjects really helped me to kind of gear the rest of my college curriculum and every other semester based on what I had enjoyed doing the previous semester. And that's ultimately how I picked my major and minor combination, was through taking a wide array of things my freshman year. And WashU's curriculum really allows you to explore a lot. For instance, like my major is 35 or so credit hours. My minors are each 15. So that would be 65 of my 120 credits, and that's it. So the other like 60-ish are basically up to you to explore. So I would recommend putting some of those like free credits at the beginning.
Oh, cool. So Hanlu, would you like to go next with this question?
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Ali said. I think it's a yes and no kind of answer, because for me, I was definitely more inclined to kind of go the path of pre-med when I first entered college, and I'm very far from that right now. And something that I often regret is not having more exploration earlier on. And I think that especially for freshmen, like first years entering college, the best thing that you can do is be open to exploration, because regardless of if you know what you want to do or what you think you want to do, you never know if that's really what is going to happen. And so I think your first year, you should definitely think about like, okay, I might not really like engineering or computer science or design or architecture or business, but why not try? Right? Like that's the beauty of college, is that it's this wonderful environment where you can really focus on building yourself. And to that, I think you have to extend it to your academics as well. If you are certain about what you want to do, by all means go for it. But I think for the large majority of us, that ambiguity is scary, and oftentimes it's easier kind of just to allow yourself to box into this mind frame of, okay, this is what my parents tell me what I should do, this is what my friends are doing, so I might as well do it. But don't let that limit your opportunities in the future, and don't let that limit what you want to do, because there's a million different options. There's 100, probably thousands of different classes here at WashU. Like as a senior, I still have trouble every semester choosing what classes I want to take. This semester, my last semester was the hardest, because I was like, there are so many amazing classes, but that's the beauty of it. So always be open to options. If you know what you want to do, again, like feel free, go for it, but just take the opportunity, take those extra credits, like Ali said, to really explore, because you could find a hobby, you could find a second major, you could find a minor. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then Andrea, do you want to close this one out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely agree with everything that's already been said so far. I think the first year of college is really a special time when you have the liberty to explore some different things, because the more you progress through it, once you decide on a major, you have to fulfill all the requirements. And so it may become a little bit more difficult to fit these kinds of things in your schedule. I mean, of course, like Ali said, she still had plenty of time to do extra things, and that's great. But I think the first year and the first semester is really special in that you can do that. And in particular, there's a ton of really great first year seminars, which are, you really get to explore something that you maybe wouldn't consider doing later on. And it's also specifically for first year students. So I think those are a really great way to kind of explore different things and to ease into it in a way that you're not going to have the opportunity to later on. But in addition to that, I will say, though, I was pretty set on pre-med when I started college, so I knew that that's kind of what I wanted to do. And there's certain requirements that you have to fulfill for medical school. So I think that I could have organized them a little bit better if I had taken maybe an extra class or two in my first year, so that I wouldn't have to load them in a little bit later on. So if you do know what you want to do, I think it's worthwhile to think about how you can best organize and to kind of think ahead. And certainly thinking all 4 years in one sit down like is not going to happen, but if you can kind of think about that a little bit, I think that's helpful. But I don't think you should put too much pressure on yourself to fulfill requirements your first year, because you have all 4 years to do that. So take advantage of this time that you have, and again, of like the really interesting classes that are available specifically for first year students.
Thank you, Andrea. So our next question is, what do you dislike the most about WashU, and how can WashU improve on that? And so for our first panelist, could we have Hanlu answer that one?
Yeah, I guess To be honest, my answer is probably going to sound like a cop out, but it's honestly how I feel. I think it's not just something that you'll find at WashU, but you'll find in any, mentioned this earlier, but WashU has so many amazing people with so many interests and skills, and it's kind of mind-boggling how many people you will meet that will change your life. And so there's this sense of, do I really belong here? And I think the first year, maybe even year and a half of my time here at WashU, it was really hard because I saw all of these amazing people knowing exactly where they wanted to go or not knowing and then finding their way. And I was kind of floundering. I was like, do I want to stay in arts and sciences? Do I want to transfer to the business school? What would I even do? More of an thing. I wish that in the general sense, I wish that I personally had taken advantage of the resources at WashU, and I wish I had reached out more. WashU specifically, I think, does a really great job at providing a lot of resources, but the con to that, and you'll learn it in marketing classes, is if you give someone too many options, chances are they won't take any options. And I think the thing to keep in mind wherever whatever you do, wherever you go, is to make sure that you know yourself and know what you need, and then seek out the help, because help is there. You just have to be able to and want to ask for it. And so for me, the broader sense of what I disliked about college was this sense of almost like being thrust into independence and then not knowing what to do with that independence and then being too scared to ask for help. So if anything, I wish that, and I can't even say that I wish there were more resources, I wish that I had reached out more to those resources. So that would be my quote unquote cop-out answer.
That's awesome. And I will definitely echo all of that. I think my freshman or first year, I also kind of struggled reaching out. And once you learn the value in reaching out, it's a total game changer. I think I wanted to speak on this question a bit as well. And something for me that I think WashU could improve upon is there's a bit of a disconnect between the WashU campus community and the greater St. Louis community. We often call it the WashU bubble very affectionately on campus. And there are tons and tons of initiatives that are working on this actively right now, which is great. There are so many student groups that are involved in the community that are really reaching out and making it more connected to the campus. But I think there's still a long way that we can go in that. And St. Louis is a very unique city for lots of different reasons. And I think, I won't get into it now, but that relationship could be improved upon, and we are going down that road, which is great. But that's probably something that I would say I wish was a bit stronger. But yeah, and then Andrea, if you want to do one more answer for this question, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Morgan. So I think for me, one of the biggest things is that WashU is not a need blind institution. And I think, most other top universities are. And so I think that's something that we could definitely improve on, and something that I think WashU should step up on, because I also think that at times I have personally felt that WashU is kind of lacking in socioeconomic diversity specifically. And I think I agree that we have a pretty diverse student body, and everybody has very unique interests and talents. But I think that is one thing that WashU could do to help encourage more further diversity in our classes. And I think that's something that we need to improve upon. But I know that a lot of student groups are very active about, and students in general are active about voicing their concerns, including this one. And so it's definitely something that I think the students are passionate about, and that they have been working hard to voice their concerns to the administration about as well. And I think that really goes for a lot of major concerns. Like if students ever have any, the student body at WashU has a very active voice, and I think helps inform the things that we can improve. And I think the administration does try to take that into consideration. So while I think that this is something that WashU can improve, I think that you guys, if you decide to go here, do have a voice in making change.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for answering that one. So our next question is, what has been your most memorable experience at WashU so far? And I will throw this one to Grace to start us off.
So the first week of school as a freshman, I went cliff diving with this group, a student group called the Outing Club. And it actually scared me so much. Like I never stepped out of my comfort zone in such a way. But that's the great thing about WashU. There's so many student groups that really encourage you to go cliff jumping or go churn butter or try something that you've never done before. And I think that's what makes WashU so unique, is that it provides you with unique experiences that I don't think you can have anywhere else. To go next, I guess, Morgan, would you like to continue that one?
Sure. I think my memorable experience I'd have to echo a similar sentiment to that. So this past year, I joined a group called 13 Honorary, which has a long time history at WashU, and essentially we work to put on the largest student carnival in the nation every year, and it has pushed me to learn how to better communicate with people and work in a professional setting and talk to adults in like the real world, which sounds really silly, but it has helped me grow so much as an individual and has brought me the bestest friends I've ever had. So I think that would certainly be my most memorable experience so far. And then Michelle, if you want to close us out with this one.
Yeah, I think mine also has to do with a group on campus, or two, I would say, because I really just couldn't pick one memorable. But I am part of the water polo team, and it's a club team, and going to the first ever D3 club nationals that like our group has ever been to was one of the greatest things, because it just like paved the way for like the club in a whole new way, and like they've become like such a family, and doing something that like I absolutely loved in high school, and having that camaraderie and family that you build through sports, that I thought I was never going to be able to replace from high school. Then coming here and then meeting all the seniors, the juniors, the sophomores who welcomed me with open arms and made me a whole new family was such a special experience. And then my second thing is Carnival, which is like a huge cultural show that is put on by the Association of Latin American Students, and being able to run the show one year, dance another year, choreograph the different year, it's really shown me how many different leadership positions like are available at the school that have like really shown me a lot about myself and what I can do, and working with 200 students, and just so much personal growth has happened through that. So definitely that. If you've visited it all, and see the giant posters, those are the shows that we put on. So yeah.
Cool. So we're actually on our last question, and this one has to do with imposter syndrome, which a lot of you kind of hinted on earlier. But so imposter syndrome is a concept that many of us heard about in our first years, and we were wondering if you guys could discuss some of your insecurities as an incoming freshman joining such a selective class. Anu, would you like to start us off with that one?
Yeah. So I think for me, there were like two sides of that. I feel like on the one hand, like academically for sure, everyone around you is like seems so incredibly intelligent and is so incredibly intelligent. And I think like being thrown into some of these classes where I didn't necessarily know exactly like right off the bat, coming from high school, how to study for them and how to succeed in them, was hard from like an academic standpoint until like people talked about. I learned like study skills, and also like B, just to learn how to like reach out more so. But I think another part of it was seeing everyone around me and like the people that I was close to, it seems like they had already found like their thing on campus, so to speak. And that could look like a student group or like other activity or anything like that, but I think it took me, and like I'm sure that this is like was not like an experience that was only mine, but it takes some time sometimes to figure out like what your place is on campus in terms of extracurriculars, and even in terms of like socially fitting in or friend groups or things like that. And I feel like definitely like starting off the year, it's really easy to look around and have it seem like everyone else has already like figured those things out, when that's definitely not true. And I think that the biggest piece of advice that I have when it comes to that would just be to like vocalize what you're feeling and like reach out and talk to people about it, because I think that when you do that, you find that a lot of other people are feeling the exact same things, and that's a really like just comforting thing to hear in that moment.
Awesome. So Michelle, would you like to talk about that as well?
Yeah, for sure. So this was huge for me. It like started from the moment I got in and someone was like, you took my spot. Like, you only got in because you're Mexican. Like, no, sorry, that's not how it works. So that's like, from the get-go, I always was like, was I even supposed to get in? Like, did they mean to like give this acceptance to me, you know? And yes, I did. I deserved it. I worked hard for it. And like, that's why I'm here. They chose me. And I want to like reiterate that like admissions didn't make a mistake. You're all accepted because you deserve to be here. So that was definitely hard to like kind of wrestle with while I was here, and like finding your place and like finding my community. And like I said, I found that through a variety of different things, especially because my family speaks Spanish at home, and like just coming to a place where, you know, I'm not going to be speaking Spanish probably ever unless I'm in a Spanish class or calling my parents. And so finding a group that was like the Association of Latin American Students, where like people wanted to talk about the food that they missed and like talk to each other in Spanish, and just like finding that like little niche was really nice. And dance was a huge part of my life before that's like super niche. And I was able to like do that through this group, so it just really opened a lot of doors. But then I also, like I said, sports like helped that, because when you like find that community and like build that camaraderie, like you find your place, which again like does take time and like changes every so often. From being a first year to being a senior, everyone like wants to be best friends at the beginning, and it takes some time to like find where you actually fit and like who people really are, and like how you're feeling about your future and whatnot. But just being open and talking to your floor mates or anyone, teachers, about any situation that you might need help with, they'll reiterate that like you are supposed to be there, like you do belong here, you will find your place, and you'll find some amazing best friends for the rest of your life. So
That's an awesome response. Hanlu, could you follow up and close us off with this question?
First of all, I'm sorry that someone said that to you. That's, for lack of a better word, a shitty thing to say. But I would also like to say, definitely on imposter syndrome, I kind of mentioned this before in previous responses, but it really is intimidating to be in not only an academically rigorous environment, but a like Raiden said in the message, that response was very racist, but also an environment where people are involved in anything that you can think of. One of my friends refounded the butter churning club, and I was like, do you even know how to churn butter? You take a mason jar and you shake and you make butter, for all of you who are curious. But it's really frightening. And I think the first thing, the most amazing class that I took at WashU my freshman year was a class called Psychology of the Young Adulthood, with a professor whose name's Tim Bono. He is a phenomenal psych professor, and that entire class was kind of breaking down freshman year. Like you're in a freshman seminar with about, I think, 100 to 200 other freshmen, and every week you're sent out surveys like, how many of you feel like you aren't making friends? How many of you feel like you are maintaining relationships? How many of you feel overwhelmed by schoolwork? And you'd be surprised to find how many other people are struggling the same way that you are. And I think that for me, it took a lot longer for it to sink in that I do belong here, that I do make an impact at WashU. And like Anu and Michelle said, it's about finding where your niche is. And it's really just something that you have to find at your own pace. And there's no like blanket solution to it. But at some point, I don't know when, you will feel like imposter syndrome take hold. But just remember that everyone goes through it, and it's okay again to reach out for help, because I've reached out to upperclassmen, underclassmen, friends and family. And so I think if you do come to WashU, you'll be really lucky, because you'll find people who are willing to help you and who are going through the same thing and who want to help you first and foremost. So that's my experience. But yeah.
Thank you so much. So we're actually going to move into rapid fire questions now, where we have compiled some of the shorter questions that have been submitted. And so this is going to be kind of fun. The first question will be, what was your favorite first year class that you took? Morgan, would you like to start us off with that? You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. So people are gonna laugh at this because it's the geekiest answer of all time. But I actually loved intro chemistry, which everyone else hates. But I loved chemistry in high school, and also loved it my first year and my second year. So I would say that the professors for introductory chemistry are absolutely phenomenal. So that was probably my favorite. But Andrea, if you would like to go next.
Yeah, absolutely. So first I want to say really all of the classes that I took my first year I thought were very interesting and different from anything that I had ever done in high school. So they were all great and memorable, but I would say I took a first year seminar class called When I'm 64, Transforming Your Future. And it's basically, it's a class that's about like aging and older adults, which I think is really interesting because I think a lot of people don't really think about their life beyond like I don't know, like you just started college, everybody's like young, so nobody's really thinking about what it's going to be like later on in life. And so it was a really interesting class where we got to explore that. And also what was interesting is we had a lot of older adults from the community like come and join in the class, so it was kind of nice to interact with different people in the community and to hear more about their perspectives on a topic that I hadn't really considered before. So I thought that was a really unique and fun class, and I recommend it to anybody who might be interested in that.
Awesome. Yes, I am unmuted. Hanlu, if you would like to go next, go for it.
I think the class that I mentioned in the before answer, Psychology of the Young Adulthood, was definitely my favorite class freshman year. But if I had to choose another, it would be the intro business class, which is Management 100. It was the class that kind of set me on following and pursuing business on a professional track. And I loved it because I had a professor, Professor Kiosis, and she was the best lecturer I ever had, because she was just she just captivated you. Like when she talked, you listened. And for me, I never really thought of pursuing business. My mom actually convinced me to take it after I was like, I don't know if I want to do pre-med. And it changed my life, which is why it's my second favorite class, Psychology of the Young Adulthood, because it made me feel secure. But those would be my two.
All right. Next, Raymond, if you'd like to speak on this one too.
Yeah, so I'm a first year this year, and I loved all my classes. I was also going to say When I'm 64, but I really loved a class called The Social Construction of Race, which is in the sociology department, taught by Professor Wingfield. I loved the class so much because I got to learn so much more about like what racism looks like in America today, and kind of just like expanded my own view, both like politically and sociologically, of like the role of race in American society. And I also think Gender War and Migration with Professor Munem is a great class, which studies like immigration and the structures that affect migrants and refugees and how we kind of construct these different identities. I think both of those classes were really about like your view of the world and like radically shaping my worldview, which is why I think they were so powerful.
Awesome. Allie, would you like to go next?
Yeah, this is a hard one because I also had so many amazing classes my first year. I did a freshman seminar both semesters, but I think the one I did first semester, which was called Introduction to Memory Studies, was my favorite. The professor was Dr. Henry Roediger, so if anyone's like a psych nerd out there, you've definitely heard of his name. If not, you've heard of the DRM effect, which are for Roediger. But anyways, he is so cool. He was in like a 60 Minutes video that we watched in class one day, like when he was out of town at a conference. He's just amazing. And I was in his class the first semester of college with just 25 other people. And I was just like freaking out about how cool he is. And then ended up working in his lab like 2 summers later. So I think that was my favorite. I learned so much about like how to study and like the cognition of like learning and all these different things that were actually super useful for my study habits for the rest of college and like learning how human memory works. But super cool class. And again, just to reiterate, those first year seminars are amazing. Just the opportunity to be with these like famous researchers. Your very first semester of college as one of like 20 students is just so amazing. Yeah, can't speak highly enough about that first year seminar program.
Awesome. And then Michelle, if you want to go.
Yeah. So my favorite class of my first year was called Homer G. Phillips. It's like the history of like the hospital that was in St. Louis and served the community, blah, blah, blah. But it was wonderful because it was targeted towards okay, why can't I find the words? Students who were pre-health and wanted to go into like the health field, but were also of disadvantaged backgrounds, or minority students, or anyone who fit those roles. And so we had a lot of doctors and dentists and like anesthesiologists come and talk to us about how they made it through despite all of the roadblocks, which was super encouraging and something that I definitely felt like I needed to hear, that we do belong in these fields, and there's a high need for people who speak different languages, various different cultures, because the patients are all going to be very different. So we're needed and we deserve to be there. So that one was very encouraging. And also we got to go visit different places around the community and see the Del Mar Divide and talked about all that and learning about like where we're living and how we can help. I think just getting out into the community and having the community be so open to coming to us was a really fun and cool experience. And it was also taught by Dean Jallo, which super amazing, cool lady. If you ever get to interact with her, she's the best.
Awesome. Anu, would you like to conclude this one?
Yeah, for sure. So my class that I would say is Intro to Women Gender Sexuality Studies, and I actually signed up for it accidentally, which is kind of a longer story, but it was a class that went along with the freshman seminar that I signed up for, which was Women in Science. And when I first saw that it had been automatically added to my Webstack schedule, I emailed the professor and I was like, oh, like I'm actually like not really sure if I want to stay in this freshman seminar anymore. I hadn't really planned to take Intro to WIGS. And she was able to convince me that it might be like worth a shot, like just to try it, and I can always drop it if I didn't like it once I got to school. And it ended up really, really shaping the way that I viewed like a lot of my interests. It made me really interested in women's health and pursuing that in the future as a physician. And it was just a really great class, lots of really cool perspectives and very different from anything that I would have thought of myself doing when I got to college, and it turned into a minor for me.
Awesome. So we're going to move into our last rapid fire question before we have the audience participate. This one is, what is your biggest regret in college so far? Morgan, would you like to start us off with this one?
For sure. I like to be all high and mighty and say I don't regret anything, but I think I spent a lot of time my first and second years, especially worrying like what I wanted to do. I went into college pretty sure I was going to go into medicine, but not really exactly sure what type of medicine I wanted to do. And I was freaking out about whether I wanted to be a veterinarian or a person doctor or like a something rogue of that. And I think by virtue of the school and the environment you're in, like there is a lot of pressure to kind of know what you want to do, but I wish I'd taken a bit more like space and time for myself to be okay with being in that unknown and really exploring all the different options and not feeling like I have to make a decision my first or second year, because you truly genuinely do not. And like really taking it to heart early on that 1 or 2 years out of your life, in the grand scheme of things, taking a break and kind of figuring things out will make so much more of a difference than rushing into something you're not fully ready to get into. So I think kind of taking that to heart earlier on would have been good for me. But Rainin, if you want to talk on that one as well, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a first year. I think it's I think one of my regrets was not was coming into college and feeling like I knew where I wanted to be. I came in and I was like, I'm going to major in political science because policy is so interesting. I have to major in political science, or what else would I do? And then I got here and I realized that there was like a math requirement, and I'm like, I'm really bad at math. And now I think political science is going to be a minor for me because I'm going to major in sociology, which I think is closer to like what I'm interested in and what I want to study in the future as well. I came in thinking that I was going to graduate and then go directly into like interning for a congressperson. But now I'm considering so many more like pathways forwards, which I think is like a product of the interdisciplinary learning that you get here. And it's allowed me to think about like, how can I work in nonprofit work or academia, or other roles within the government, like in the bureaucracy, so working for different departments. I think I wish I was less confident in what I wanted to do coming in, because I think it would have given me more opportunities to explore and kind of question whether or not I actually wanted to do that.
That's a great answer. I definitely empathize with that. I felt that too. Hanlu, would you like to continue this question?
Yeah, I kind of already answered it before. And again, just to stress, like, the biggest regret that I have in college is probably my entire first year, because I was so focused on pre-med. Like I had this whole plan of like, I'm going to go through pre-med, I'm going to go to med school, I'm going to be a pediatrician, and that's it. And that is not the way that life turned out. I took a lot of classes that made me realize medicine was not the right path for me, management 100 being one of those. Med prep, if you are interested in pre-med, take med prep, because that class will either clarify medicine for you or break your interest in it. And for me, it broke my interest for a variety of reasons. And we can get into those if you want to ask. But I cannot emphasize enough, like, make sure to take time for yourself. Like Morgan said, make sure to take time for yourself. Everyone moves at their own pace. Make sure to explore, because like Rainin said, you don't know what you'll like until you try it. And even if you try it and you hate it, at least you know what you dislike. Because I think the biggest regret I have in college is going in so blinded about what I expected my future to be like. And the biggest lesson that I took away from freshman year is that it's almost more important to know what you dislike than what you like. Because if you know what you dislike, you can at least navigate away from those. If you like something, you might not like it forever. So take your time, explore, don't be trapped by what you think you should do and what others tell you should do.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Allie, do you want to go?
Yeah, so I kind of would echo Morgan's experience in a lot of different ways, but something else that I think became increasingly clear to me, actually, like when senior year was cut short for me, is the fact that I kind of had a mentality primarily my first maybe year and a half. Again, going back to what I had said earlier about like being so hyper focused on like school, where like, oh, after this exam is over, or after I turn in this big article, or after this, that, or the next thing is over, I'll be able to relax a lot more. And like, I kind of wish I had just taken things a little bit more as they came. And this year I was a lot better about, like I said earlier, prioritizing like family and friends, and being like active and exercising and things like that. And I wish I had kind of gotten into that whole mindset of like everything is not an emergency all the time earlier, and like really spent more time earlier on, so I wasn't just waiting for like my last I got really emotional the other day about my last Zumba class at the AC. Like, I'm not going to get to go in knowing it's my last, or like my last black bean burger at the Duck, like things like that. I just kind of wish I had like savored the moment more along the way, which is probably more of like a life thing and not necessarily just a college thing. But nevertheless, it was like a great 3.75 years, and I wish I had just taken a little bit more time to like appreciate it as it was happening.
Cool. Anu, would you like to talk on this point as well?
Yeah. My thing I think would just be to not be afraid to say no to more things, whether that's like additional commitments or like even I think freshman year it can be really easy to be like, oh, if I say no to like hanging out with this group of people, then I'm like going to lose out on what could be like a really, really strong friendship. And that might be true, but also I think it's important to like trust yourself and know where you're at. And if you are feeling like overwhelmed or like need to take the time to do something else, then it's okay to say no, and you're not going to miss out on like a life-changing thing necessarily just because you do take that time for yourself. And like, don't stress yourself out by saying yes to every single thing that comes your way.
Awesome. That's a great point. Andrea, do you want to go next?
Sorry, wrong button. Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, my biggest regret is that in my first year, I think I definitely could have branched out a little bit more. And for a variety of reasons, I was like nervous about meeting new people, and I didn't join all of the clubs that I thought would be interesting. So I wish that I hadn't held back so much, because like I said, I think the first year of college is a really great time to explore a little bit more. So I wish that I had been a little bit more proactive about meeting new people and outgoing and like trying new things. And so I guess on the opposite end of what Anu just said, I kind of said no too often. So I wish that I had said yes more than I did. And certainly I feel very fulfilled about my college experience, but there's more stuff that I wish I had tried. And now, like, especially since it's been cut short, kind of like Ali was saying, I feel like I'm thinking about all these things that I wish I could have done, because college, you only get to do it one time and whatnot. So yeah, I would say for all of you guys, if you, regardless of where you go to school, I think you should take your first year to really push your horizons and try new things.
I totally agree. Michelle, would you like to close us out with this question?
Yeah, for sure. So I think my biggest regret would be not asking questions. Okay, this is a little complicated, but just I didn't know that you didn't have to take like bio and chem at the same time, that you didn't have to take like all three, like physics, like you can take them in any order as long as you get them done and like do the prereqs, whatever. And like asking that from the start, like, can I deviate from everyone's like specific plan? Can I like try other things first? Can I take one chem first and then take it later? I don't know, just like asking those questions, because I realized I wasn't the type of person who could take 3 STEM classes all in one semester and be super successful in all 3. And then coming from like high school, where obviously everyone's like high achieving and like not doing as well as you want to, it really like puts you down. And that was easily avoidable if I had been like, do I have to take these classes in this specific order or timeline? And the answer is no. You can take them as long, like I said, like as long as you get them done in like the order, but spread them out like it can be done. So that's kind of my biggest regret, not shifting classes around to fit me as a person, knowing how I study and how I can be successful. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Michelle. All right, so that concludes our prepared questions. We know that we weren't able to answer all of your submitted questions, but we really tried to include the ones that were asked more often. So I'm sure you have plenty more questions, and we are going to use the raise hand feature on Zoom. I hope you guys are equipped with that knowledge, but if you don't, we can kind of go into detail. But if you want to raise your hand and ask questions, or you could either drop it in the group chat as well, or you could private message me or Morgan if you'd like to use like an anonymous way to ask. And for everyone else, just please be respectful by staying muted. Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Or if any of the panelists have any last comments that they'd like to touch on.
Thank you guys for coming out tonight. I know that this is an interesting time to try and determine college decisions, and we really appreciate you guys coming and listening.
Oh, sorry. Oops. I think the most helpful advice that I got in high school, and it's a cliche, but it's how you will be happy wherever you end up. I truly believe that's true. I was choosing between UC Berkeley, USC, and WashU, and even by the time that I committed, I wasn't sure if this was the right choice, because when you have multiple choices, you always have that like little nagging voice in your head that's like, but what if? But I think wherever you go, you will have the power to make that place your home. I have friends who ended up going to schools that were not their top schools, sometimes for financial reasons, sometimes for personal reasons, a variety of different factors that influence them, and places that they really did not want to go to ended up becoming places that they're incredibly proud of. Like I have a friend who went to a very small college that gave her a full ride, even though she wanted to go to a much bigger school, and now she thinks it's the best decision she's ever made. I think wherever you go, you'll be happy. I know it's very stressful, so stay safe and stay healthy.
Yeah, I have a younger sister who's also looking at colleges right now, and I know it's a really hard time to be making these kind of decisions and just to be like doing anything. So again, thank you all for taking the time to learn more about WashU, and yeah, just enjoy the ride when it starts. Wherever you end up going to college, it's a really special time, and I guess that's about all I have to say. But thank you all again.
Awesome. So we did have one question that was asked that was directed at those of us who are pre-health. So what is it like being pre-med at WashU, and is it difficult to maintain a high GPA in pre-med classes? So if anyone in particular wants to speak on that, I also totally can, but okay, I will go for it. So I will say that any pre-professional program is going to be difficult. I have friends in, pre-dental, pre-veterinary, pre-law, pre-anything. It's going to be hard, and there's no doubt that pre-med at WashU is definitely a journey. But I will say, if it's what you know, if you fall in love with it and you know that it's what you want to do, you will put the time into it and you'll get the most out of it. And I think my pre-med, pre-health classes that I took, while they were arguably some of the most difficult ones and most challenging, they also taught me the most about myself and about what I wanted to do even within medicine. So I think, yes, they're tricky. My GPA is fine. WashU has so many resources to help you through your classes, so many tutors, so many, anything you could ever need, all of which I have used, that it's definitely doable. If it's something you want to do, WashU is there to help you do it, for sure.
Yeah, I'm also happy to really quickly address this question. So I mentioned at the beginning, I'm very grateful to have been accepted to medical school. So I was obviously pre-med, and yeah, thank you. And I will be going to med school starting this coming year. And yeah, definitely, I agree with Morgan. It's a time to be a pre-med at WashU, and it can be very difficult at times and a little overwhelming as well. But I think that there are a lot of resources to help you succeed. And also, since we have the WashU Med School here, which we have a good relationship with them, the undergrad campus has a good relationship with them, there's a lot of great opportunities to do research with faculty at the med school and to volunteer at the hospital. And so I think that you get a lot of really important experiences that one, look great for your application, but also they let you explore a little bit more about the medical field to see if it's for you. And in terms of the GPA, I think, definitely WashU is difficult. Like I said, I was fine and I've been accepted, so it's definitely possible. And I know most people who go to WashU have a lot of success when applying to medical school. And I think even if, let's say, your GPA is maybe not as good as somebody from a different school, which maybe may not be as rigorous, I think the fact that you go to WashU is seen very positively by medical schools and in anything really. I think in whatever field you're going into, I think a degree from WashU is a big plus on your resume. So maybe, yeah, the classes would be difficult, but if your GPA isn't exactly what you want it to be, just remember that a GPA of whatever from WashU is going to look better than you may think it does. So try not to stress out too much about it, but there's lots of help and resources for you to succeed in the pre-med path.
Yeah, I had my 4-year advisor at the end of freshman year when I went to her, like panicking that I was worried that my freshman year hadn't gone as well as I wanted it to. She told me that because I was like, oh, like, am I even like good enough to like stay pre-med? Like, should I still do this? And she told me that if I still wanted to and was still interested, then it was worth sticking with. And like, as long as that interest and that passion was there, the grades would fall into place, and they did. But so I think there's a difference between like, if you are still committed or if you are just like not doing well and also not interested in what you're doing anymore. But it's definitely doable, like people have said.
Awesome. And also just a heads up, if you need to leave at any point, feel more than free to. I know we said this was going to be an hour, so thank you so much for coming again. We will have a few panelists stay after, myself included, who are happy to answer more than any questions that you have, and feel free to ask those. We want to thank all the panelists for being here, and hopefully you all find this a helpful, informative, and enjoyable way to learn more about the WashU community. We also want to take this opportunity to invite you all to help us expand these CollegeSide Chats. This is very much a word-of-mouth project, and we obviously need help kind of spreading the word. Our goal is to host several chats across various universities, and we need help with marketing and outreach, which can be as simple as helping us post our next chat in another college's Facebook page or sharing our Instagram posts on your stories. So we would really appreciate that if you feel so inclined. And with all that said, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the panelists for volunteering your time, and congratulations on all of your acceptances. And we hope that you and your loved ones stay safe and healthy.